Hi everyone. In this video, we'll demonstrate how you can minimize your Dynamics 365 case resolution times and meet your SLAs on Dynamics 365 with Zenduty. A little about Zenduty. Zenduty is an incident management and incident alerting platform that connects with your ITSM and service management tools and alerts your service staff whenever any critical incident or any critical cases are created within your service management portals, and escalates these case alerts to the relevant support staff and ensures that these cases are responded to and resolved within the least possible period of time. So today we'll be covering the Dynamics 365 integration with Zenduty. A lot of our customers today who are currently using Dynamics 365, the single biggest problem that they're facing today, or rather the single biggest business problem that they have today is how could they minimize the response and resolution times to their incidents and cases that they handle on Dynamics 365. More often than not, these cases are stuck in some kind of a backlog. They're not responded to by the relevant teams, and it very often sort of breaches the SLA parameters and the SLA thresholds. What Zenduty does, rather what the Zenduty Dynamics 365 integration helps you do, is it can proactively alert the relevant support staff whenever a specific Dynamics 365 case is assigned to them. Zenduty makes sure that the case has been responded to within a stipulated period of time, and the case is resolved within a stipulated SLA time frame. This is the brief sort of high-level diagram as to how the Dynamics 365 Zenduty integration works. Whenever a new case is created in Dynamics 365, it will basically send a signal to Zenduty, which will then execute something called as an escalation policy, which is sort of preset within your Zenduty account, and alert the relevant support engineer. And if the engineer does not respond to the new case within Dynamics 365 within a specific period of time, it will then get escalated to maybe a support manager or another member within your support staff. And the escalations will keep going on until somebody responds to the Dynamics 365 ticket, and the next alert or the next escalation will happen when the Dynamics 365 ticket is not resolved within the SLA time frame, and then again it can sort of alert either the same support engineer or maybe a support manager. So when this entire alerting / escalation process is taking place, Zenduty leverages various channels to send out these alerts to your support staff. So Zenduty might can send these alerts via, or rather dispatch these alerts via SMS, via an automated IVR phone call, via Microsoft Teams, via email, via Slack, and via push notifications on your mobile applications, that is Android and iOS. So setting up the Dynamics 365 integration with Zenduty is a multi-step process. So the first thing that you have to do is you'll have to set up the Microsoft Dynamics 365 plugin registration tool, the instructions for which are available within the Dynamics documentation on Microsoft.com. This is what it looks like. So you will basically need to set up your NuGet and install the plugin registration tool right here. So once you're done with this setup, then the next thing that you'll have to do is you will have to open up your plugin registration tool. So after you've installed your plugin registration tool, just navigate to the tools folder, and you'll find something, a file called pluginregistration.exe. You can double click on that. So this will open up the plugin registration tool, and all that you have to do is go ahead and click on a new connection and add your login with your Office 365 account, an administrator account. And once you log in, then we'll go back to Zenduty. Hopefully, I think by now you would have created an account on Zenduty. I'm not going to go into the details of how you can create a team. So what we have here already is a team called the production team. And what we're going to do is we're going to add a service in this team, and we're going to call it customer support. And we're going to add the Dynamics two-way integration to the service and associate it to the default escalation policy, that is P0 support. Currently, we won't have any task templates or SLA policies assigned to it. We'll add that a little later, and we'll go ahead and disable incident collation on the service. So as you can see right here that our Dynamics two-way integration has already been set. So we're going to go ahead and start authenticating our Dynamics 365 account. So the first thing that it's asking for is the Dynamics URL. So we're just going to go ahead and select our URL. So I've removed the trailing slash as instructed. I'm going to go ahead and click on Authenticate. So this will take us to Dynamics 365, and you'll have to authenticate your D365 account with Zenduty. And once you authenticate it, then Zenduty will sort of ask you to map the incident states between Zenduty and Dynamics 365. So in Zenduty, as you already know, there are three states, which is the triggered, acknowledged, and resolved states. So I'm going to go back to my Dynamics 365, and I'm going to go ahead and look at my cases. And I'm going to see that whenever a new case is created in D365 in my customer service hub, what should be the status of my case that will then trigger an incident on Zenduty. So what I'm going to do is, I think the mapping for Zenduty triggered would be in progress in Dynamics. So for acknowledged, I would say that the status would be waiting for details, and for resolved we'll have resolved. So we're going to go ahead and in progress, and problem solved for resolved. Great. So we have mapped our respective states between Dynamics incidents and your Zenduty incidents and the Dynamics cases. The next thing we'll have to do is to configure the webhook URL. So I'm going to copy this webhook URL. I'm going to say integrate Dynamics, and our integration is then done. So I'm going to take this URL, and I'm going to go back to my plugin registration tool, and I'm going to register a new webhook on Dynamics 365. So the first thing I'm going to do is just unregister a few of the older webhooks that I have. So to register a webhook, I'm going to click on register new hook. I'm going to give it a name, that is Zenduty. In the endpoint URL, I'm going to copy the URL that I copied, or paste the URL that I copied earlier. I'm going to put in a dummy webhook key, and I'm going to go ahead and click on save. So as you can see right here, we have created a webhook, we have registered a webhook endpoint for our Dynamics instance. Now the first thing that we're going to do is we are going to register a new step within this webhook, and we're going to go ahead with the create incident step. So we'll be registering 2 steps with our webhook for whenever a case is created on Dynamics 365 and whenever a case is updated on Dynamics 365. So we're gonna map register 2 steps, that is the create and the update functions. For the entity is incident, which corresponds to the case in Dynamics 365. We're going to make the execution mode as asynchronous, and event handler is webhook Zenduty. We are good to go. So we have created a step for new incident created, and the second step that we'll create is for the update incident webhook. Make sure that it's asynchronous, and event handler is webhook Zenduty. Register new step, and we're good to go. Great. So this is pretty much the two-way integration setup. So a couple of things that we'll have to do at the service level is, the first thing that we'll have to do is, whenever any new case is coming into Zenduty, we need to make sure that we set up an escalation policy that will basically tell you exactly who should be alerted first, who should be alerted second, so on and so forth. So we'll go back to our production team, and we're going to go to the escalation policies tab, and I'm going to create a new escalation policy, and I'm going to call this our support primary escalation policy. So the first person that I would like to call is whoever is on call in my support on call primary schedule. Now if that person does not transition the Dynamics 365 case to researching or in progress, or whatever corresponds to the acknowledged state, if that person does not respond within 10 minutes or take the action within 10 minutes, then I would alert the support manager, which is Michael, and my SLA period for acknowledgement is 30 minutes. So I would send an alert to Daryl. Rather, I think I'll just send it to Dwight. I'm going to go ahead and click on create escalation policy, and I'm going to go back to my service, and I'm going to go and map the customer support service to our newly created support primary. Great. So once our escalation policy is defined and our integration is good, I think we can just go ahead and go to our Dynamics 365, and let's go ahead and create a new case. So we're going to create a test case and see how the escalation is happening. So let's go ahead and create this incident. And now when we go to our Zenduty incident page, you will see that an incident is created in Zenduty. And the incident is automatically assigned to Dwight, who is currently on call for the support primary escalation policy. So once the incident is assigned to Dwight, and Dwight, let's say, does not respond within 5 minutes, then it will, like the escalation policy mentioned, the alert will get escalated to Michael, and then after 30 minutes again it will get escalated to Dwight. So if I look at the timeline, you'll be able to see that Dwight was notified on a bunch of channels. So he was notified by email, Slack, Microsoft Teams. Dwight can also set his contact information, his SMS and phone number, where he can also receive the case alerts on his phone and via an automated phone call. So if Dwight looks at his Microsoft Teams, he'll see that the Zenduty bot has sent him a message or an alert on Microsoft Teams as well, with a link to the incident and a link to the Dynamics case. So once Dwight receives the alert on Zenduty, the first thing that he'll have to do is to acknowledge the issue. Alternatively, what he can do is he can go to Dynamics 365 and he can transition the state of the incident, transition the status of the incident to I believe it's in progress, to rather researching. And once Dwight transitions the status of the Dynamics 365 case, then Zenduty will automatically sort of mark it as triggered. So it's waiting for details, which is the equivalent of the acknowledged on Zenduty. So the two options, like I said, he can acknowledge the incident on Zenduty so that it's not escalated further, or he can go to Dynamics 365 and he can transition the status right here. So when the status is updated to waiting for details, you'll be able to see in the alert log that the incident has been acknowledged from Dynamics 365 itself, and therefore this incident will not be further escalated. Now, if Dwight did not respond to the case within 5 minutes, then according to the escalation policy, it would have escalated to Michael, who is the support manager. Now, Dwight can go back to the case and work on the case, and once the case is resolved, he can go ahead and mark the case as resolved within Dynamics 365 itself. So I'm going to go ahead and resolve the case on D365. And that would automatically sort of resolve the case on Zenduty. Great. So what we have just demonstrated to you is the entire integration setup between the 365 and Zenduty. We showed you how you can set up the escalation policy to escalate those case alerts to various members within your support team. Now, depending on the case that has come in to D365, you can conditionally route it to specific escalation policies on Zenduty. So one business use case would be that if, let's say that it's a network issue and you want to assign it to a network team, right? Or rather, if you want it to be routed to the network team, then what you can do with Zenduty is you can create a custom escalation policy for the network team itself. So we can have an escalation policy for the network team, and whenever a case is created on Zenduty, rather whenever a case is created on D365, we can create a custom field called escalation policy within D365, and once Zenduty detects the escalation policy, the custom escalation policy field, then it can conditionally route it via something we call as an alert rule. So to create a custom, or rather to route it to a custom team instead of a generic default escalation policy, you'll have to go ahead and create a custom field on the D365. So to add a custom field within D365 that we can use later to map it to an escalation policy, a specific escalation policy on Zenduty, log in as the Dynamics administrator and navigate to the advanced settings page. So once you're in the advanced settings page, just go ahead and click on customizations. And once you click on customizations, you can click on customize the system. So in the resultant dialog box that is shown, navigate to the case entity. Right. So once you're in the case entity, you can just navigate to the fields page of the case entity, and you can go ahead and create a new field, and you can call it escalation policy. So we have already created a field called escalation policy that you can see as new _ escalation policy. So when you create a new field on D365, what you can do is we will make this field as a drop down. So when you create the new field, you're gonna choose the data type as an option set, and for the various escalation policies that you already have. So let's sort of take a step back and see what escalation policies we have. And we're going to create a drop down in our escalation policy field, and we're going to assign it specific labels within your custom field. So the first one we have is the network team. So I'm going to go ahead and call it the network team, and I'm going to give it a value of 1. Great. And rather, I think instead of 1, we'll just give it a value of 10,000, rather whatever it is. 100 million and 1, I guess. And we're going to have the second escalation policy. So we're going to have the second escalation policy, which we're going to call the support primary, and we're going to give it 100 million and 2. Great. So you can create multiple escalation policies for multiple teams. The idea behind the custom dropdown or the custom field is that while you assign a team within the assignee field in D365, you can subsequently assign that team's escalation policy within the custom escalation policy field that we just created. So we have 100 million and 1 and 100 million and 2 as our values for our 2 escalation policies. As we keep adding more escalation policies, we can define them or add those as options. So let's go ahead and click on save. And let's go back to our case page, and just click on the refresh button. Great. So our escalation policy values have been saved. Now, as you can see right here, even though this case has been solved, you'll be able to see the custom field right here, which is the escalation policy. So let's go ahead and create a new field, or rather a new case. And let's just call it network issue 2. And as you can see right here, our custom field escalation policy and the 2 values that we had defined, it's showing up right here. So we have the network team that we have selected as the escalation policy. I can also go ahead and select as the owner the networking team, but so if I select the network team as an owner, I would also want the network team's escalation policy to be selected right here. So this is where we would sort of use this value to use this value within Zenduty. Great. So even though I have selected the network team as an escalation policy here, it will not go to the network team escalation policy, and I'll tell you why. Because when we had created our service, the support service, we had defined the escalation policy as the support escalation policy. So right now, any incident that is created or anything that's coming from D365 will get routed to the support escalation policy. So you see that an incident has just been triggered and it has been assigned to the support primary escalation policy. But let's sort of take a step back and look at what D365 is sending to us, right? So if I go to the alerts tab and if I inspect my alert, right, you see something called as payload. So this is the raw payload that is sort of coming from D365. Now, if you notice here, we have a bunch of fields that are being sent by Dynamics 365. One of them, if I search, is the escalation policy. Rather, it's the new escalation policy, and the value that you can see is 100 million and 1. Okay, so what I can do with this is I can go and create something called as an alert rule, and depending on the value for that new underscore escalation policy field, I can custom route it to a specific escalation policy. So that's where our custom field would actually make sense. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create 2 alert rules. So the first one would be route to network team. I can go ahead and view the latest alerts from D365. That's the latest one that was created after we had assigned the escalation policy. So I see that my new underscore escalation policy, and the value is 100 million and 1. So I'm going to select our alert rule, and I'm going to write a rule if my payload has this specific value, custom field, and if that value is equal to 100 million and 1, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to override the default escalation policy, and I'm going to send it straight to the network escalation policy. So whoever is part of the network team, they can create their own escalation policies where you have members from the network team, and whenever a D365 ticket is assigned to the network team, Zenduty will make sure that the relevant people within the network team are alerted. And finally, I'm going to also have another value, that is route to the support team, and I'm going to repeat the same process. So this time our value is 100 million and 2, and in the payload search, we have $.new underscore escalation policy. And if that's equal to 100 million and 2, I would want the escalation policy to be my support escalation policy. So in the same way, I can create multiple alert rules and override the escalation policy and send those alerts directly to that specific team. So let's go ahead and first resolve this case. And let's go ahead and create a new case. So I'm going to create a new case which is clearly a network issue. And I'm going to select as the escalation policy, I'm going to select the network team's escalation policy. Great. So I'm going to create a new case on D365. In the meantime, let's also sort of take a look at what's happening within Microsoft Teams. So since this is sort of Dwight's Teams, you'll see that a new incident has been created. And this time it was escalated to the network team. Now, it's a coincidence that even for the network team, the on-call engineer or the first person to be alerted is Dwight. So is Dwight for the support team. But nevertheless, if you could have created a new escalation policy or a specific escalation policy for the network team, you could have had another member as the primary alert team, so as to speak. So since you selected a team, Zenduty routed the alert to that team's escalation policy and alerted that person. So now, specifically what Zenduty will do in this case is that it will make sure, or it will wait for somebody from that team to see the alert, either the alert message or the alert summary, or the alert SMS, or the message on Microsoft Teams, and it will wait for the support engineer to come in and transition the case, or transition the status of the case from in progress to either researching or whichever status is sort of corresponding to the acknowledged status on Zenduty. So if I'm Dwight, I saw the alert on Zenduty, I'm going to go ahead and say that I'm waiting for details, and I'm going to save this case. So this way Zenduty ensures that your relevant teams, to whoever the case is assigned to, they respond to the tickets, and if they're not responded, at least it gets alerted to somebody else within the same team, or maybe somebody in the in upper management. So coming to our final functionality is to be able to send all of that data to Microsoft Teams, and then we'll also sort of cover a little bit on the SLA side of stuff as well. So although Dynamics has an inbuilt SLA alerting mechanism, you can also sort of create custom SLAs in Zenduty. So the SLAs are again set at the team level, and what SLAs on Zenduty allows you to do is to assign incidents specific SLAs, and if that incident, or in this case the Dynamics case, is not resolved or it's not responded to within a specified period of time, you can alert specific people within the organization whenever a specific ticket is not resolved or responded to within a stipulated period of time. So that is what we call as the SLA alert. So you can set SLA targets, that is 5 minutes for acknowledge. That is for Dynamics 365. It is this SLA would state that you need to change the state from in progress to either researching or something appropriate within 5 minutes. And we have a resolution SLA that is 1 hour or 59 minutes in this case, which would mean that if the case is not resolved within 59 minutes, then you can alert either a support manager or somebody in the same support team, so that they're able to allocate more resources to resolve the case without breaching or without sort of spending more of your error budget or your SLA budget. And then finally, the integration with Microsoft Teams, which is the last piece. So there are two ways of integrating with Microsoft Teams. Both of them sort of are complementary to each other. So you can have a direct message integration with Microsoft Teams. So which means that just like you add your other contact information like your email and your SMS and your phone number and your Slack accounts. So the Zenduty bot will serve as a direct notification channel. So whenever you fall in the escalation chain, Zenduty will be able to sort of send you a direct message on Microsoft Teams. So the way to do that is to go to the apps page on Microsoft Teams, and you can see that Zenduty is sort of already present in your apps page. So you can just go ahead and add Zenduty to a team, and once you add it to a team, Zenduty will sort of send you a message right here from the bot asking you to authenticate your account with Zenduty. And once you authenticate, then Zenduty would automatically add your Teams account as a contact information. Now, second, and I think the most popular integration is the channel integration. So to be able to send all your Dynamics tickets to a Teams channel, Zenduty allows for you to create connectors and send all that data. So the way to do that is you can just go to the channel and click on connectors, and we can search for Zenduty in our connectors, and we click on add. And then we click on configure. So this will create a webhook which you copy, and you go back to your Zenduty service, which is your support service, your customer support service. And then we're going to click on add new outgoing integration, and this time we're going to call it support channel on Teams. And we're going to select the Microsoft Teams connector integration. We're going to go ahead and configure this integration and paste the URL. And we're going to click on save. So whenever any new case is created, or whenever there's any transition in the states of any D365 cases, you will be able to sort of see those messages or get those streams within your configured channel integration. So if I resolve an incident on Zenduty, you'll see that resolved message was just created in the channel. Now if I go back to Dynamics 365 and again go ahead and create a new case, rather this time I'm going to call it an application downtime issue, and I'm going to assign it to the support primary instead of the network primary. And I'm going to go ahead and click on save. So if I go back to my Microsoft Teams channel, that's the general support team channel, you'll see that Zenduty will send the new case information to the Teams channel. Now, since Dwight was the on-call for for the support team. So if I go back to our incidents page on Zenduty, you will see that the incident is assigned to, or rather it was escalated through the support primary escalation, as we chose the support primary in the drop-down, the custom drop-down. Now, if I go back to our Teams channel, the general channel, you'll see that the incident data, along with the acknowledge and resolve button, has been sent to the general channel within the support team. So the good part is that I can resolve or acknowledge the incident within Microsoft Teams. And when I acknowledge an incident on Microsoft Teams, what Zenduty will do is it will automatically sort of mark the case as either waiting for details or resolved within Dynamics 365. So essentially what you're doing is that if you're part of the support team and you get this message in the channel, you can transition the state of a specific D365 ticket or D365 case from Microsoft Teams itself. And you can work on it, you can resolve the case from Microsoft Teams and sort of pretty much manage the entire incident end-to-end within Teams itself. So when I mark my ticket as resolved, I'll see that the incident is also resolved within D365. Great. So at the end of the day, like we had mentioned earlier, Zenduty can help support managers and operations teams accelerate your response and resolution times for your D365 cases. We do this through proactive alerting and proactive escalations. We make sure that whoever is assigned, or whichever team or individual is assigned to a specific case or a critical case, they're able to sort of respond to the case within your SLA timeframes. And if they're not able to sort of meet those, or rather if they're not able to respond to a ticket or a case within an SLA timeframe, then at least it gets escalated to somebody else within your team, and they're able to sort of take over the case and resolve it within the SLA timeframe. We hope that this session was useful for you, and you can give Zenduty a try at www.zenduty.com. And if you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment in the comment section below. Thank you so much for watching.